All right, so we launched our WordPress site from the words, and it configured everything for us based on the words in the template. But where did it launch it to? And if we go look at the details of the instance, we see it launched into a VPC that gave it a 172.31 IP address instead of the 10.0 IP address of our custom VPC. So that's fine if we're gonna just do fake things for practice. But if we want to do real things, we need our instance to be in our VPC. Because our RDS, I could totally see a scenario where I would want to point my instance to the RDS. Our RDS is running in a private subnet in our VPC, so we cannot access the private subnet in our VPC from in our custom VPC from this other VPC. So we're going to modify the template to launch into our private subnet in our VP, one of the public subnets in our VPC. And pretty much for this part of the lab, I'm just going to tell you what you need to put and where you need to put it. But if you were doing this on your own and you need to figure out what kind of stuff you would need to put, unfortunately, I have found you really have to read the documentation for this. This is not the kind of thing you're going to figure out on your own what kind of stuff you need to put in there most of the time. So if you go to the CloudFormation user guide, you can look at all the different EC2 things that you can specify. So we're going to specify a security group. So I'm already on the security group page. And we're also going to specify a subnet. So you could go in the documentation and read about a subnet to see what kind of things you could specify in a subnet. And the way we're going to do that is by adding parameters to our template. So we're going to let the user pick what subnet they want. So let's go up to the parameters. All right. Be very careful editing this file. Issue spaces. So we're going to want to VPC subnet. These are just words that the top one's just a word I'm going to use as a reference point later, kind of like a variable. Here, I'm going to go copy some of this stuff. So I'm going to copy this stuff to make it easier. Name of existing subnet. Name of existing VPC subnet. And then the type, we would look down here and see that it's EC2 subnet, and we would need to specify the ID. So that's one of the things we can specify, the ID. So we're going to have AWS EC2 subnet ::ID. These things are case sensitive, so if you put the wrong case, it's going to fail, or at least in my testing, I had one fail because I had the wrong case. So we're going to create the VPC subnet, and we also are going to specify for it to use our web security group, but we're going to let it pick the security group. So security group. So the reason we're specifying security group is because if we go down here to the resources section, we go down to the resources section, it is creating a security group for us. Unfortunately, with the way it's creating the security group, that's what one of the reasons it was going in the default VPC, because of the way that it was doing this. So we can go ahead and delete this part of the code because we don't need it anymore. So get all the lines I have selected and delete that because we're not going to be creating that security group anymore. And And then we're going to go up here and do a couple other things. So if we go look at the parameters, some of the parameters, here for DB name, it has a default value, which is kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and change this because I didn't when I was testing, and I ended up typing this stuff a bunch of times. DB user, I'm going to put a default for that. I'm going to go add a default for DB user, and I'm going to make it my DB user. Oh, did you see that? I put a underscore. I'm going to fix this. This is the irregular expression. It wasn't allowing underscores. I just put an underscore in there. It says, hey, underscore is cool. No echo. I don't know why we want to hide the database user. That's what gives it the hidden characters. We don't want to hide the database user. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and set the password using the default too, so I don't have to type it. I'm going to need that again for the root password. All right, so just to review what we did, oh, that was messed up. I forgot to change that. That should be set group. Good thing I came to review. So we're taking a couple parameters. We're going to ask it about an existing VPC subnet. We're going to ask about a security group. I got rid of the part down below that was creating the security group. And then I set some default values so I don't have to type so much. So now I need to save this. It's called template 1, which is a terrible name for this. I should probably save it as something. Oops. I should probably give it a better name. I'm going to call it Rich WordPress VPC, because it's starting in the VPC. So you should name it that. All right, so we have our template. So let's go ahead and load it into CloudFormation and see what happens. So we'll create with new resources. This time we're going to upload a template. We're going to choose our file. We're going to go to wherever our file is, downloads, open. Now hopefully this will validate fine and you won't get any errors. If you get an error as you're going through this, yeah. Template format, unresolved resource dependency in the resources block of the template. So there you go. I got an error. Let's go find that error. You know why I got that error? I got that error because I deleted that web server security group. What was it? What did the error say? Web server security group. Web server security. Yeah, so here we go. Down here where my instance is getting created, I forgot to change that to be my new group that we had. So it's going to be set group, and I'll go show you where that comes from in a second. So I want to use the set group instead of web server security group, because up here we are now getting the set group from the parameters. So actually it should be security group IDs, not security groups IDs. And then we also need to specify our subnet. So that would be subnet ID, and then we want to ref whatever we ref whatever we called it, which I'm not sure what we called it, so we should probably go check that. VPC subnet, right? VPC subnet, that's what we called it, so that's what we need to reference down below. Ref VPC subnet. Did I do all lower? I think I did VPC. I don't remember. Let's go check again. Yeah, VPC subnet. So that modifies it to to set the security group ID and also pick our set the subnet ID to what we pick from the parameters. So let's go try to launch this. So create stack with new resources. We need to upload the template every time if we make changes. Next, rich WordPress VPC. Since we put all our parameters in there for defaults, all that stuff's already there. I didn't do that while I was testing initially, and I kept typing that stuff over and over again. So we want the web security group, and we want a public subnet in our VPC. In a moment about VPCs, if last lab you didn't change your subnet to automatically assign public IPs, now would be the time to go do that. So auto assign public IPv4 address, you want to have yes for that, so for this to work. So if you didn't do that in the previous lab, you should go do that before you do this. All right, fingers crossed this will work this time. So it's creating the web server. So if we go to our instances, we should see that that instance is being started. I don't know why I clicked on that. All right, so here's our new instance. It's initializing. If we go look, it has a IP in our public subnet, which is what we wanted. So if we go back over to CloudFormation, it should finish at some point. Yeah, so this still says create in progress. Let's just go ahead and grab the IP address and see if we can connect. Remember, HTTPS won't work, so there we go. HTTP. Also, it's still in the WordPress directory. So there we go. Honestly, at this point of the lab, I don't really care if you go put this stuff in. We're basically just trying to make sure we get the WordPress to launch. So I consider this to be success for this part of the lab. There you create complete. So there we go. That template, just to review, things we did this time in the template. We added some parameters to specify VPC subnet and then security group. We deleted the stuff that was creating the old security group. The other security group we didn't need. We added in some default values for our parameters so we didn't have to type it every time. And then we modified the template where we create the site to change the security group IDs and to reference the subnet ID for the VPC.